Hey everyone, and welcome back to my completionist playthrough of the Baldur's Gate Saga with SCS. So now after our successful conquest of the Fire Giant Temple, we just need to make sure that we're completely done with the place by properly looting everyone. Here's Imix, and he has some notable stuff. And there was also this one loot pile here that I neglected. And now we are done. We're going to be able to inspect our newly acquired pieces of loot in a second, but actually, while I'm thinking about it, let's just properly re-equip everyone and give them their proper weapons. And Sarevok is going to get his armor and his ring. We're also going to stash the wave. And now there's also the matter of this newly acquired belt, the 22 strength belt that we have obtained here. And it is going to go to Kirinai. Her 20 strength belt is going to go to Jaheira, and Sarawak is going to get the 19 strength one. So basically everyone is going to get a bit of a strength upgrade, getting some slight Thaco and damage bonuses. This is going to be minimal on Saravok because the difference between 19 strength and his base natural strength is just +1 damage. But the only other option with this belt we would have it would be to basically give it to Imoen to increase her carrying capacity, which is of course an extremely low impact move, so I don't think this is a good idea. And at least Saravok is going to deal a little bit more damage with that. Anyway, now let's take a look at these goodies here. First we have the Amulet of the Master Harper. That is a necklace that can be only used by bards and thieves, and is yet another example of an item that just comes into play way too late, which is a bit of a shame because essentially 3 out of 4 of its properties are pretty much irrelevant at this point in the game. This is still a nice amulet for Herdalis or Nyla, for example, but let's actually talk about these properties. Of course, the thieving skills, by now, by this point in the game, you surely have your thief utility sorted, and even if you have Nyla, which this amulet works nicely for her when it comes to her thieving abilities because she has 80 find traps, so this maxes her out, but she has 60 open locks, so she still needs that ring to really be maxed out. But even if you have Nyla, she is likely not your primary thief if you have went through the game through Shadows of Amn with her. It might be something for her if you just start a new game in Throne of Bhaal, but yeah, that is a pretty rare occurrence. And now when it comes to this armor class boost, it's actually a significant one. +3, coming from just one item of that type, is a pretty cool idea, but again, we are in Throne of Bhaal where armor class doesn't really do much for us anymore. However, we are still going to... Well, we're primarily going to use this amulet on Imoen because of this immunity to silence, which is a valuable thing to have on her, but sometimes we might still use this amulet on Kirinai, and there's at least one fight I have in mind in Watcher's Keep where we're going to still go for kind of like an armor class based setup on her, and with the buffs that we've had on her last episode, with this amulet and the Ring of Gax, she's going to be able to achieve -18 armor class easily, and then we can augment that even further with like improved invisibility, defensive harmony, that kind of stuff, and make her become truly avoidant to enemy attacks. But that's something for the future. For now, this is going to be used by Imoen, and then also we obtained Ravager, which for now is only or just a +4 enchanted halberd with some casts of Cloak of Fear on it, but we are going to be able to upgrade it later on and make an excellent weapon out of it that ultimately Saravok is going to end up using, I think. Also we have some level ups to do, so Kirinai is going to become level 30 in Thief, and I think from now on the only thing left to do is to give her some more traps, I guess, so let's give her her second spike trap. Then this is going to be a really nice level up for Imoen. She's going to be a level 20 mage and get an additional spell memorization slot for levels 6, 9, and also 8 from her high level ability. So let's actually give her some spells that are likely going to get reworked the next time we're going to rest. But anyway, we also have a level up for Sarevok, level 21 in Fighter, and this is going to give him a proficiency point. So let's continue our way onto Grand Mastery in Halberds, and here, since he has at least that one hardiness, we're going to give him one whirlwind attack, which is of course going to be effective for him. Being a two-handed weapon wielder, getting 10 attacks for 1 round is nice. And even the whirlwind attack, the standard one, not the greater one, that doesn't confer the penalty to Thaco, even that one that we have to use in order to unlock the greater whirlwind, this is still going to be effective for him because he's a pure fighter with good strength, so even you know, losing 4 points of Thaco is not going to be a big deal for him. And I think next time we're going to go for those death blows in order to uphold the role-playing theme of Saravok as a Deathbringer, and to actually give ourselves the opportunity to get some value out of these abilities wherever we can. But anyway, since we're also talking about different abilities, last episode, Imoen unlocked some more Ballspawn abilities. So she now has Drop on Holy Might, which is just a standard cast of the spell, which is not going to be too useful for her, because she already has maxed out Constitution. She is going to be able to improve her Thaco with ranged weapons and her armor class a little bit by increasing her Dexterity, and increasing her Strength, not in a permanent way, is not going to really do much for her. But she also now has, normally this other ability would be Slow Poison, the same one that we have had in Baldur's Gate 1, but Ascension upgrades it a little bit to Neutralize Poison, which is actually pretty handy in some situations. It's just nice to have another source of that type of effect on Imoen, because this can of course instantly remove any poison, disease, blindness, or deafness. So this is, it just comes in handy in certain situations.
What is it?
Anyway, now that we are entirely done with this place, we can teleport to our pocket plane. And here we're going to do some upgrades with Sespinar. And we're actually going to get out our Stone Golem page, our Bag of Plenty, and just put down all of the stuff on Sespinar's list of upgrades. That's pretty high, that he would like to talk to us about. But anyway, this Stone Golem page that we have here, I am going to stash in this container, because we are not going to use it. And when it comes to our Golem summoning manual, there is a certain upgrade path for it with a couple of these pages. So it goes from the Flesh Golem that we have now, into the Clay Golem, then next up is the Stone Golem, and finally the Juggernaut Golem. And since this is a completionist playthrough, we are of course going to eventually progress onto the Juggernaut Golem stage, but I don't want to use the Stone Golem version, because when it comes to these upgrades, you can skip earlier parts of this upgrade chain if you have later pages. So now that we have the Stone Golem page, we could immediately just upgrade past the Clay Golem onto the Stone Golem, but I actually want to use the Clay Golem, the page for which is in Waterskeep, that we're going to get at some point a little bit later. And I want to use the Clay Golem for the majority of Throne of Bhaal, because the Clay Golem is just infinitely more useful. Even though the Stone Golem has a little bit better stats, it has more hit points and it has higher strength, but it doesn't have any physical damage resistances, whereas the Clay Golems, of course, can only be hurt by crushing weapons. They have 100 resistance to every other type of physical damage, so that alone makes the Clay Golem very, very useful in a lot of situations. And also in SCS, the Clay Golems apply that curse that blocks direct healing. It doesn't block regeneration, but even preventing the direct healing is useful in some situations and can help a little bit. Also, when it comes to that curse, I'm not sure if it's intentional that it doesn't prevent regeneration, but that's how it works. So a lot of enemies that we are encountering nowadays, of course, have some pretty good regeneration that it's not going to do anything about, but still, it is going to be useful in blocking the healing from their potions, for example. But anyway, that's going to be our decision when it comes to the Golem summoning manual. But for now, we have some other stuff to discuss with Sespinar.
Ooh, it's very nice quiver it is. Pretty colors.
Ooh. So now we can upgrade the Quiver of Plenty +1. Now that we're going to use one of our Rogue Stones for that, and 10,000 gold. So it's going to be able to generate unlimited +2 arrows now.
Enjoy! Sespinar gladly serve the Great One. Ooh! Eh? Bag of rocks? What do you do with so many rocks? Need more head?
And also we have just obtained the Bag of Bullets +1, and we're going to be able to upgrade now.
Stand back then. Never used this recipe before. Could be messy. Enjoy.
Alright, so now we have that stuff. We can re-equip ourselves. I think we're going to go back to firing our Firetooth crossbow. So yeah, now we have the Quiver of Plenty +2, which Imoen is going to have whenever we want to perhaps... Actually, we have so many +3 ammunition that we're probably not going to have much use out of these 2 items, but, you know, gotta upgrade them all. And we have this Bag of Plenty +2 that I think Jaheira is going to get. And we're going to sort that later. Anyway, now that we're done with that, it is going to be the time to pay a visit to Nyalee, the Witch of the Glade, now that we have both of the hearts that we needed to retrieve for her. And we have to make our trip to the Forest of Mir again. And you might have noticed that I'm not resting, and that's on purpose. Even though we are fatigued, I think it's going to be more interesting to do this fight without resting and reloading our spells and all that. And also, since we sense that something might go wrong here, especially since Nyalee did not strike us as a particularly stable person the first time we talked to her, we are going to prepare a little bit. Also, here we can see a cool glow in this night time that Kirinai's armor exudes this nice glow. Pretty cool little thing. Anyway, we are going to dispense... Oh, first of all, we're going to give ourselves Remove Fear, and then we're going to dispense some Death Wards. We're not going to buff up too heavily, but I am going to play it safe with the Death Wards. There is going to be one opponent that can instantly kill, and of course we want to avoid that. So we're going to give one to Kirinai and to Saravok, and then we're going to be done. Our mages can get some mirror images. Anoman can get some Armor of Faith. Jaheira doesn't have that anymore. But anyway, we're also going to have to prepare 1 Scroll of Limited Wish. I think we have 2 more in total, so we can spare 1 here. Alright, and now we can go closer. Here we're going to summon our genie to grant us the wish of becoming invulnerable and getting all of our party members minor globe of invulnerability. That's going to protect us against some nasty effects here. So let's make ourselves invulnerable. Now when it comes to our positioning, we are going to send Jaheira a little bit forth here. I think Sarawak is going to occupy the attention of an enemy that's going to show up here. We're going to have Imoen in the back, and we are also going to make sure that she has our Staff of Command prepared, because we are going to have a little trick up our sleeve prepared here. And Sinashira, of course, is going to conduct the conversation.
I am willing. Yes?
And I think that's it.
Most anxious Nyalee is, oh yes. Have you found her precious heart, Spawn Child?
I may have. I have 2 hearts here. Are they what you need? Oh, 'tis Nylee's heart it is. The Spawn Child has found Nylee's poor heart. And, yes, this be the boy's heart as well. Gives Nyalee her heart, and she will extinguish the boy's. She will. Oh, yes.
Yes, at last Nyalee has her heart. Nyalee had forgotten how it feels to have a heart she had. Many old memories. It makes Nyalee sad.
So yeah, this, of course, noticeably changes the way she talks. And there, it be done. A simple thing it is. The boy's heart is cold now. As cold as his mother's old heart. You will hurt my boy, won't you? No, what has Nyalee done? My poor boy, the Spawn Child would hurt him. Will hurt him. Nyalee must stop her. Come, spirits of the glade. Come, woodsies of the forest. We must protect my boy, my precious Yaga-Shura. So, Nyalee, you naughty girl. Now she turns on us. It would seem that now that she has her heart, there was some motherly love still left for Yaga-Shura, some maternal instincts that kicked in, and even though Yaga-Shura called her an foolish old hag in his journal, she of course is going to try to protect him like any mother would, and we're going to have a fight on our hands. And now I think, we can see the names of all of the opponents. So, anyway, we're going to quickly dispose of these two nymphs. They're actually the most inconsequential enemies in this encounter, but they are very easy to kill. They have little hit points, no resistances. They can mostly cast different charming and mental domination spells, that kind of thing, which is not a big deal, but they are very easily removed at the beginning of the fight, so we're going to get rid of that little nuisance. And then we have the two shambling mounds, which are actually way better than the shambling mounds that we could summon from our Staff of the Woodlands here. They are pretty special. These shambling mounds have 160 HP and they regenerate 4 HP per second, and they also have 50 physical resistance to all physical damage except crushing, to which they are immune to. And they can also dish out some pretty good damage of their own, because they have 24 strength, 2 attacks per round, and they can entangle with their attacks, and they can also deal additional damage that's not shown in the combat log. It's coded pretty specifically that they have a chance at dealing some percentage-based damage onto our party members. That's not reflected in the combat log, so we're going to have to be pretty careful around them. And yeah, we're going to have to go the slashing or piercing physical damage route to deal with them. And then there's this unique vortex spider that can be pretty dangerous, but in reality it's very easily outmaneuvered. And well, let's first cover his abilities. First off, his attacks can instantly kill. That's why we have pre-buffed with death wards to avoid that. Second, he can poison, and his poison takes for 20 damage per second, so it can be pretty nasty. And it also has a special vortex web single target ability that works kind of like blindness and slow combined. That's harder to save against. It has a -4 saving throw penalty, and it reduces our armor class, our Thaco, and slows us down, but it's considered a level 3 spell, so our minor globe is going to protect us from that one. He also has a normal web that of course can immobilize, but we are going to be immune to that as well, thanks to our minor globe. And finally, it has Dimension Door, can teleport around to get himself closer to his targets. But what's bad about him, what makes him an easy target to kill, is that he only has 60 HP, he has no resistances, and he is not innately hasted like the sword spiders, for example. So he is actually very slow. And if I was in charge of upgrading him, I would give him like 200 or 300 HP, because this is a pretty cool idea of a kind of a dangerous, poisonous spider here. I would give him that haste, of course, that the sword spiders have, and some physical resistances probably, to make him a little bit more of an interesting enemy, but in our case he's not going to be able to do anything, except maybe poison someone that we're going to try to detect quickly and remove that poison. And then of course there is Nyalee, finally. She is a level 20 druid with 100 HP and 50 magic resistance, and she is also immune to pretty much everything, to stun, to silence, to backstab. I think she's basically immune to everything except blindness, that we're not really going to take advantage of. She's of course going to have her druidic pre-buffs with iron skins, surely, and basically a pretty easy way to deal with this encounter would be to just quickly breach her and direct all of our physical damage onto her to quickly dispose of her, but we are going to give her a little bit more of a chance. We're not going to dispel her iron skins, we're just going to try to cut through them the hard way, to give her a little bit more time to display her abilities. And there are basically two unique things about her. First off, she is loaded with creeping doom spells that you really cannot interrupt through damage. It very rarely happens, if ever, to be able to interrupt her creeping doom. And that is a nasty spell that can deal some damage. It can inflict fear and that spell failure penalty. So it's going to be very nasty for our casters, especially for Senashira, that's going to be right in the middle of all this. And also, of course, SCS makes Fire Shield spells deal with insect spells, but only for opponents. And we have encountered that kind of thing back in Shadows of Amen in the Druid Grove, where I basically informed about this. The Fire Shields don't work for us that way. And you know what, we can actually even demonstrate this, because we have some spare Fire Shields on Senashira. Let's give her Fire Shield Red. She is still going to be affected by that Creeping Doom, and we are most likely not going to be able to interrupt those. So, you know, they can deal some damage, interrupt spellcasting, cut through stone skins pretty quickly. But the second thing about her, which is even more important, is that she is in possession of a Mirror of Opposition, with which she is going to be able to create clones of our party members that are going to serve her. And This is not going to be like our encounter with Irenicus in Spellhold, where we're going to have a full set of clones to deal with. She is going to basically be able to, every round, create one clone, kind of a single target, in a single target way. If I can stop stumbling over my words. But, you know, if we consider the fact that now, at this point in the game, we are very high level, we have very good equipment, you know, those clones by themselves can be very dangerous, especially when it comes to certain party members like Senashira, for example, which is certainly going to be her first target to make a clone out of. And these clones, when they come into play, they have all of their spells refreshed, and they also have spell triggers and spell sequencers generated automatically by their SCS script that kind of loads up. So they can be very dangerous. But we are going to have a little trick up our sleeve with our Staff of Command when it comes to those clones, but more on that later. And yeah, basically how we're going to go about this encounter. We're going to quickly try to kill this nymph with Jaheira. Kiranai and Anaman are just going to quickly dispose of that other nymph. And Saravok is going to deal with that Vortex Spider, and then probably Kiranai and Anaman are going to aid him. And we're going to just have Senashira cast that Fire Shield Red, and then she is going to work on cutting through Nylee's Iron Skins. And Imoen is going to be at the ready, and I think this pillar might block her vision, so let's move her to the east with what we want to do. Alright, so as you can see, she already used this Mirror of Opposition to create a clone of Senashira that's going to serve her, but not for long. Let's actually allow it to become hostile. Alright, there she goes. Now let's unleash our Domination spell, coming from the Staff of Command. Because this Domination allows no save for the target, and Senashira, of course, is not innately immune to such an effect. She does have our, like, Hell Trials immunities to normal weapons, so if she uses protection from magical weapons, for example, we won't be able to switch to normal ones and just kill her. So we're just going to take control of her. So thank you, Nyalee, for giving us Senashira number 2. And she actually did cast protection from magical weapons. Of course, Nylee's pre-buffs trigger. She does have Iron Skins, magic resistance, regeneration. But anyway, this nymph already died. Good job, Jaheira, and good job, Anaman and Kiranai. We're going to be able to move forward here and deal with this Vortex Spider. Let's actually reposition here first. Senashira has her Fire Shield, which we're going to display how useless it is against the insect spells when it comes to protecting us. And now we have Senashira number 2, and this is a fully fledged clone, not like a level drained simulacrum type of thing, but she has, you know, all of our normal spells here reloaded, has all of the stats, all of the equipment, everything. But you know, we just basically want to get her out of this encounter, not so much to help us so much, but at least so that we don't have to deal with her. So thank you, Nyalee, for another Senashira. Congratulations, you played yourself. with that Mirror of Opposition, you could say. But anyway, now the next order of business is to get that Vortex Spider. Alright, now that one is dealt with. And now we of course need slashing or piercing weapons against these shambling mounds, so let's direct Sarevok and Kiranai to deal with this shambling mound. We can start firing our crossbow bolts. Senashira is going to work on Nyalee, and I think we might place Jaheira on Nyalee as well. And Anaman, this might be a little bit too much damage for Nyalee. I want her to live for a couple of more rounds to show her her other abilities. And Senashira also is not going to attack the clone of Senashira, because that might be a little bit too much damage. And of course with Anaman we cannot use any slashing or piercing weapons, so he just has to kind of sit this one out. Jaheira could actually switch to Balm as her main hand weapon and add some damage to these shambling mounds before they become too much of a nuisance. Let's see how this goes. Seems like Nyalee was not able to unleash a Creeping Doom so far. Alright, but now she created a clone of Kiranai, so let's allow it to become hostile. And I think since Kiranai is very close here somewhere... Where are you? You are obstructed by that shambling mound towering over you. But anyway, we have Kiranai very close, and I think this is a nice opportunity to present the ability Assassination that we have not used yet. Assassination, of course, makes her every attack to be a backstab for 1 round. So she is going to be able to do a couple of backstabs to quickly dispose of any other clones that Nyalee is going to create. Of course, she is not going to be able to succeed in backstabbing with our Scarlet Ninja Toe, because this is not a suitable weapon for backstabbing, but all of her other main hand attacks are going to be backstabs, so let's activate that. And once the clone of Kiranai here becomes hostile, it's going to have to deal with Kiranai's assassination. Alright, so now we have assassination here activated. This clone is now hostile, so let's allow Kiranai to dispose of her own clone and destroy that abomination of nature. Oh, wow, Senashira actually did manage to interrupt Nylee's Creeping Doom, or any other cast she might have had. So this is a very, very rare occurrence. Normally she just spams Creeping Dooms, and she can get like one after another successfully. Okay, what's going on here? I think the shambling mounds. Did I not order you to attack your clone there, Kiranai? Wow, the clone of Kiranai is doing some pretty good damage to our own Kiranai. And I actually wanted you to assassinate your clone. Come on. Don't disappoint me here. Right, she did manage to do at least one backstab, but I think we're going to have to move her out because she has 6 HP here. And she cannot heal yet. Let's just try to move her out, but those 2 shambling mounds are going to make it impossible to retreat to the east, I think. So let's go west and let's allow Animan to take over.
I must rest soon. I am weak when I am tired.
Yeah, just run away. That first assassination attempt was not really that impressive. Oh, we also have a clone of Jaheira operational, so we're going to have to make sure to direct some damage onto our clones. Nyalee is still uninjured, and this shambling mound is near death, so Sarevok finished the deal, and Jaheira finished the deal. I think we're going to move now Jaheira and Sarevok. We're going to move onto the clone of Jaheira as well. And can you heal yet? Okay, you can. So at least you have 47 hit points now.
Yes?
Alright, Nyalee is starting to become injured. I don't think we have cut through her iron skins yet. Alright, the clone of Kiranai is almost dead. And Jaheira, the clone of Jaheira, conjured a fire elemental. See, this is why we have allowed Nyalee to live for a little bit longer. This is the fun we can get from this encounter if we don't kill her immediately. So this is pretty cool. Now Kiranai, this is our first target. The clone of Kiranai needs to be disposed of right away. And then the clone of Jaheira seems to have died, so we're going to be able to move. You know what, it seems like the wave is going to be able to make its one last attack here onto this fire elemental to instantly get rid of it. And now we're going to stash it for a while, at least. Alright, Animan, the clone of Animan is also casting something, so let's try to interrupt him. Also, Imoen might want to direct some attacks. And now, did the clone of Kiranai die yet? It seems like it was not the case.
What is it?
Alright, Nyalee is near death, though. We have cut through her iron skins finally, it seems. Yeah, Senashira is doing some good damage, interrupting her spellcasts. That is very, very unusual. Like, normally, like I said, I've had fights where she unleashed like 4 Creeping Dooms and I wasn't able to interrupt any of them. Anyway, near death Kiranai, please, achieve that death. Alright, finally. It actually says Senashira, I think because we have had, you know, that situation when we have two characters created by ourselves in the combat log. Actually, Kira and I appeared as Senashira here. Of course, the clone of Senashira is right here, doing fine, and the clone of Anomen decided to present us with some Storm of Vengeance. So let's move out of that with Kira and I at least. You know what, let's be safe and heal her once as well. Imoen got poisoned as an effect of that Storm of Vengeance. Let's just give her an antidote and move her out of there and then consume it. Right, it seems like Nyalee just died. You can consume your antidote, and now we can move with our slashing weapons onto this other shambling mound. I think it is time. And Anomen and Jaheira are going to finish their business with the clone of Anomen here. Now we're done. Now Jaheira can go back to using Belm to be able to deliver some damage onto this shambling mound, and let's move out Senashira here so that she doesn't die from any unexpected high damage coming from that shambling mound. And this is going to be it. I think we're still standing in that Storm of Vengeance. But anyway, now that we have this clone here, we can safely dispose of it by just using any spell, like using up its round. So I don't really want to deal with Senashira with whatever spell triggers or spell sequencers she might have. Let's just make her cast protection from petrification, and now we can just dispose of it. Sometimes it happens, like, you know, when you have these clones, they manage to go hostile and unleash a spell. Like, she would probably cast protection from magical weapons, making it, you know, impossible to reach her with physical damage, and then she could have some nasty tricks up her sleeve. But now we are totally done with this encounter. Sometimes, oh yeah, sometimes undead can spawn in here, so let's have a little fun with Anomen. Give him a chance. Boom. That never gets old. Anyway, now let's loot Nyalee. Unfortunately, she doesn't really have anything. She has that broken mirror, a staff +3, and a druid ring with charm animal on it. So we're going to sell that, of course, sell that cleric staff. This broken mirror, you know, belonged to the mad cleric Nyalee. Can't really do anything with it. And yeah, that's it. We are now done. We have managed to get rid of Yaga-Shura's immunity, or invincibility, or immunity to weapons and spells. Even though Nyalee there had a little change in her behavior, this does not change the fact that Yaga-Shura is now going to be susceptible to damage. And we are going to dedicate the next episode to our fight against Yaga-Shura. We're going to have an epic boss encounter against him and his army. But also there's one more thing I want to do in this episode. We are going to conclude our efforts to have an alignment change on Saravok. Because for two reasons, we're going to kind of force it a little bit, or prod the whole matter to activate for us now. And we're going to do it for two reasons. Right now, this is a nice window of opportunity to showcase the whole thing, especially since I want to talk about it a little bit. There are a few things I want to mention. And also, the second reason is that I really, really want to avoid the kind of mishap that we've had in the previous episode, where I just wanted to, you know, I was about to press a hotkey to select one of our party members, and then a conversation triggered unexpectedly, and I selected a conversation option before I could really, you know, do anything about it. It just, you know, sometimes happens that you can be unfortunate like that. But when it comes to the conversation with Sarevok, selecting the wrong dialogue option can result in like big failure for us because there are some conversation options in his next conversation that can outright block the ability for him to change alignment, because this is going to be his final conversation that's going to determine what his alignment is going to end up being. So you know, a little mistake in that conversation could basically ruin all of our efforts up until this point to make him reconsider his way of thinking, I guess. So basically what we're going to do here is I'm going to make a quick save, And I'm going to cut this out of the recording, but I'm basically going to use a command to force trigger a banter. And if it's anything else than our conversation with Sarevok, I'm just going to reload back here and try again. Because of course we don't want to miss out on any of that. We want to see them all over the course of our playthrough. But once we do get the conversation with Sarevok, we're going to be back on camera, and we're going to, of course, go through that whole process. And basically, just to be clear here, we're not speeding anything up here unintentionally. Basically, the conversation with Sarevok is one of the conversations that can trigger for us normally now. It's in the pool of banters that you know, the game would be able to offer us once its internal timer goes on enough so that it can present us with one of the banters. And I just want to make sure that we have that one done, we have his alignment changed completed, and then we can just you know, experience all of the other banters as they come up. So anyway, I'm going to proceed with that plan with the triggering that banter, and I'll be right back.
The end draws closer. We both know this to be true. Listen to a proposition then that I have given much thought to as of late.
Welcome back, and this is the one. This is the conversation that's going to determine the fate of Sarevok's alignment. And here, if we cut it short by saying that we don't care about his proposition, or if we actually accept it, those conversation paths are going to block the ability for him to change his alignment. But for now, let's go ahead and listen to what he has to say. I expect no greatness from myself, Senashira. You should know this. The plans I once had to become the new Lord of Murder died with the loss of my taint. Your own plans, however, are mostly unknown to me. Your nature is not as self-serving as my own, generally speaking, so it is difficult to gauge how welcome my overtures will be. You may have decided to undertake my old goal and seek to become the new Lord of Murder, if such a thing is indeed possible. Or you may seek to rid yourself of our sire's taint forever. This is what my proposition relates to. Senashira, I urge you to seek the path of power. Take the reins that are meant for you and assume your birthright. After all you have been through, it is the only reasonable path, and I beg you, allow Sarevok to stand at your side, brother and sister in arms, together. Imagine it, Senashira. Together we could advance across the realms, an unstoppable force with an army at your command. You would be the ultimate terror, and I would be your iron right hand to rule over all. I have other plans, Sarevok. Forget it. But why, Senashira? Why would you not take that which will be offered to you? Power, wealth, rule over lesser men, it is all within your reach. And here we can guide the conversation to succeed in convincing him that he needs to change. It's about time. You are a fool, Sarevok. Have you learned nothing? I don't understand. What is the use of power if you do not carve out an empire for yourself? And here, this is our last chance to get some bonuses, I guess, to increase that alignment change variable. If you say that you can't take an empire with you when you die, or that with the great power comes responsibility, those increase it, and also this one that I'm going to go with. There is much good that can be done with that power. That is more important. After all you have been through, with the taint in your soul, you still believe this? I do. I see. And this is the culmination moment in which Sarevok is going to make some decisions based on the value of that alignment change variable. And there are three options here. When your variable is in the negatives, then the other one is where its value is 0 or 1, and then the third one that we're going to get is when its value is 2 and above. And I think in our case it should be like 5 or 6. So let's see what he has to say. I believe your words may have merit, Senashira. My own methods did not end well, and I have no desire to return to the abyss when I perish next. Perhaps it is time to rethink my views. I shall have to think on your words most carefully. And yeah, this is going to bring about the change in Sarevok, and now he's going to become chaotic good instead of chaotic evil. And, you know, now that we have talked some sense into him, there are going to be some changes, mostly role-playing oriented. Some of his voiced lines are going to change, most notably the battle cries, but also some other ones like his nighttime comment or his in the city comment, for example. He's also going to have an additional conversation later on about some of his thoughts, now that we have changed his way of thinking. And near the end of the game, he's going to give us a different piece of advice. And also, in Ascension, there is an important consequence beyond just the role-playing ones, and that is related to gameplay. During the final Ascension fight, Sarevok, now that we have made him realize how wrong he was in his previous life, and we might even go as far as to say that we have even befriended him, he's going to be truly on our side now, and he's going to influence the final fight in a meaningful, different way. His response and reaction to something is going to be different. And also, we're going to have a little change in his appearance too, to reflect his different alignment. He is still going to favor some of his dark colors, but we're going to change his color to dark blue, to kind of reflect his new outlook on life, I guess. And this is also going to, of course, make his selection circle different, and his appearance in the combat log now is going to be in blue, so he's going to be easier to distinguish from Sinashira and Kiranai that use dark primary colors as well. And also, there is one more thing I wanted to talk about. I wanted to mention the one person who truly believed in Sarevok until the very end, Tamoko. If you remember, through her efforts in Baldur's Gate 1, she tried to make sure that we would not kill Sarevok and give him a chance to have a change of heart, and believed all the way through that he could be redeemed. And it seems that, in the end, she was right. Of course, in our playthrough she paid for her sins, but she's a more complex character, and I just wanted to have a little bittersweet reminder of her here. And she's also going to be mentioned in Sarevok's epilogue as his only true love. And yeah, on this somber note, I think it's time to end this episode, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.